Bee and Puppycat is an animated miniseries created by former Adventure Time creator Natasha Algeri for channel Frederator, an online animation network where you can watch all of the episodes on YouTube and the Verve app. The show centers around Bee, a young unemployed woman who comes across the strange creature Puppycat, who go on magical temp jobs in order to pay rent and help figure out Bee's place in the world. What makes this cartoon so distinct from other examples of animation is how they defy genre in order to better reinforce the message. If we were to put this show into literary terms, Bee and Puppycat would be a shining example of new adult fiction. New adult fiction is a genre of literature first defined in 2009 by St. Martin's Press as an extension of young adult fiction. Though unlike YA fiction, which primarily deals in issues surrounding puberty, first romances, and personal identity, issues most prevalent in audiences between the ages of 12 and 18, new adult fiction deals with issues surrounding people in the age brackets of 18 and 30. Issues like employment, establishing your independence, and coming to terms with your own identity within the greater context of the world. While this genre was first dismissed by many critics as simply a marketing ploy to capitalize on the success of Harry Potter and Twilight, it distinguishes itself by presenting adult issues and ideas while placing them in a more inviting context of children's media. And that's something I think that Bee and Puppycat does very well. It is able to discuss issues that are almost exclusive to adults, while appearing very different from children's animation. If you were to look at the show without any context, you would not be incorrect to assume that this was a show marketed to children, with the visual style seeming more reminiscent of a storybook than something made for adults. Though Bee and Puppycat differentiates itself in its portrayals of its characters. Compared to other cartoon protagonists, Bee is very unique in terms of her own character development. Instead of figuring out who she is and learning to grow up through some magical journey, as seen in shows like Steven Universe and Avatar, Bee already has become an adult and has some understanding of who she is already. Though where she struggles lies in her interactions with others. She has a hard time expressing her feelings with those close to her, she is often afraid to handle adult responsibilities, and a lot of people have difficulty understanding her, to the point where people doubt if she's able to take care of herself.
Decker, don't you think it's weird that she hasn't grown up yet?
She's just having a hard time finding a job that suits her. We aren't all born computer experts.
But if she found out that you're avoiding your future because you're sitting around looking for excuses to mother her, I think she'd feel bad about that.
Just like it seems that the adult world requires everyone to be in this restrictive idea of maturity, it also applies to animation. Many cartoons marketed to adults feel this need to prove their maturity by making their show inappropriate for children as much as possible, by making their humor raunchier, more grotesque, and as edgy as possible. Because if kids aren't allowed to watch it, it must be mature, right? Though, as many have observed, adding racist jokes and sex doesn't instantly make your show mature. Quite often it does the opposite. Shows like South Park and Family Guy make themselves out to be like they're this messenger of adulthood, spreading truths about how the real world works. Though quite often, these shows will confuse cynicism with maturity, and in an attempt to appear mature, they will try to paint the world as a vile place where everyone except them is stupid and nothing is going to change because that's just how the world works. Not only is this a defeatist way to look at the world, but it ironically makes the show appear to be more immature than the children's shows that they are trying to distance themselves from. Though luckily, more and more shows are realizing that this is a bad way to go about things. Shows like BoJack Horseman, Rick and Morty, and Bee and Puppycat try to bring out a more hopeful and mature messages for their audiences. If I were to name an overarching theme of this show, I would say that it's responsibility. Much of the show focuses on each character trying to face some sort of adult responsibility. Bee trying to find a job that she's passionate for, Deckard struggling to pursue an education versus pursuing her relationship with Bee, Cass coming to terms with her job as a programmer and leaving behind her passion of wrestling, and even young Cardamon being forced to take on adult responsibilities in the absence of his mother. Despite the colorful and bright exterior, Bee and Puppycat's world is very much like the world for a new adult. It's a world where it's difficult to become employed, where the practical value of higher education has been put into question, and where many have to abandon their passions in order to ensure a stable income. with responsibilities of being an adult seeming to be abruptly thrusted upon us. For anyone who might be having difficulties taking on these responsibilities, they might be seen as being immature or incapable of being responsible. Though something that this show points out is that people like Bee are able to achieve that same level of adult responsibility without abandoning the happiness that they could be found when they were young. With the help of Puppycat, Bee is able to make her living going through magical temp jobs that take the appearance of the juvenile tasks that she likes. More and more, we are finding people who are embracing their juvenile sides in order to find their own way in the adult world, to forge their own paths to become successful, which I think is a pretty reassuring message that you could be imparting onto your audience, especially for those who are entering the adult world and feel a lot like Bee. It is through this way of thinking that we are able to innovate, revolutionize, and change the world. Bee and Puppycat shows us that while the adult world is scary, we have the power to change it for the better. Thank you for watching. Best wishes.